Okay, let's dive right in. When I say the word technology, what instantly pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably that smartphone in our pocket that we check, 100 times a day, or the laptop on our desk, or maybe even the latest AI software everyone's talking about. We naturally think of gadgets, right? Hardware, apps. But what if that definition is entirely missing the bigger picture? What if the true definition of technology is actually the invisible scaffolding of our entire global economy? Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to challenge your baseline understanding of what technology actually is. Today, we are exploring a seriously fascinating piece of source material titled Empirics of Technology, a Primer for Noda, authored by Oluyomi Olajavid. In her work, she takes our everyday, gadget-obsessed view of technology and completely flips it on its head to reveal a much deeper economic reality. Through her insights, we'll see how redefining just one single word can completely change the way we view global development.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with what is technology really, shift over to the economist's perspective, and then look beyond capital and labor. After that, we'll see how this plays out in tech in developing nations, before wrapping up with the unanswered questions.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1. What is technology really?
So the author points out that what technology means in our everyday chats is rarely how an expert sees it. For most of us, the ordinary mind, technology is simply the gamut of information communication technologies, or ICTs. It's basically everything sophisticated enough to make human actions easy and fast. In her primer, she even pulls up the Merriam-Webster dictionary, which defines it as the practical application of knowledge to accomplish a task. Basically, the layman perspective is all about ease, speed, and practical gadgets. And look, while she acknowledges this is somewhat relevant, because, making things easier does promote productivity, she argues it barely scratches the surface.
And that brings us to Section 2, the economist's perspective. Notice the stark contrast we're looking at here. On one side, you've got the layman focusing on the physical things, the gadgets, the tangible applications. But look at the other side. Olajavid introduces how an economist views this entirely differently. To an economist, technology isn't a thing you can hold. It is the manner of combining varied factor inputs. She's shifting our focus completely off the shiny product itself and pointing us directly at the hidden process of production. Let's actually read her exact definition to really cement this concept, because it's a real game changer. She writes that to an economist, technology refers to the manner in which varied factor inputs in a production function are combined. Think of it like a giant recipe. You might have a production process that is super capital intensive or labor intensive, but the technology is the specific knowledge and method of how you mix those ingredients together to achieve economic efficiency. To her, technology is the recipe itself. It's not just the oven you bake it in. Let's move right into Section 3, Beyond Capital and Labor. Before we get too deep into the weeds of her theory, it helps to understand who's guiding us. Oluyomi Olajavid is a Nigerian economist whose work is deeply anchored in the real world. As she states in her own profile, she is profoundly concerned about global development and transformation. She isn't just sitting around writing abstract theory in a vacuum. She actively seeks to generate solutions, influence policy, and provide clarity. Her focus on actual human transformation is what drives this whole economic perspective. She wants to know why some nations absolutely thrive while others struggle, and her unique definition of technology is her key to unlocking that mystery. So here's the big takeaway. If technology is the recipe for combining inputs, what actually makes that recipe successful? Well, she observes that traditional inputs, like capital and labor, just aren't enough to explain efficiency. There are these additional, invisible social and environmental factors at play. She points directly to a society's prevailing culture, its social institutions, and its governance infrastructure. These are the underlying factors that actually determine if a region's production activity is efficient and sustainable. She notes that empirical literature is just packed with evidence showing how institutional quality and political stability directly impact economic growth. This brilliantly illustrates why developed countries tend to have better production systems. It's not just that they have more machines, they have the governance and the social infrastructure to combine their inputs more efficiently.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, Tech in Developing Nations.
Let's look at how she applies this framework on the ground.
In our rapidly growing knowledge economy, adopting ICTs radically affects education, health, and labor productivity. But she highlights one specific, incredibly powerful example: mobile phones. Now, to a layman, a cell phone is just a gadget, but to her, the dynamic development of mobile telephony systems is actually a massive economic catalyst. It's a direct vehicle for financial development and inclusion in developing countries. It's the perfect example of her broader definition. The mobile network isn't just hardware. It is a brand new manner of combining inputs that allows marginalized populations to finally enter the financial system. It literally transforms the economic landscape.
Finally, we arrive at Section 5, the unanswered questions. Oladiva wraps up her primer by just blowing the scope wide open. She exposes this massive landscape of things we still do not fully understand about the knowledge economy. She lists several vital questions that are desperately seeking answers right now. First up, she asks, what is the relationship between technological innovation and economic diversification? We all know innovation changes things, right? But how exactly does it allow a country to broaden its entire economic base? The knowledge economy is moving at lightning speed, and she is basically challenging researchers to catch up. Then, she brilliantly links the invisible to the physical, asking, how does institutional quality impact environmental sustainability? Like, can good governance literally lead to a greener planet? She argues that these factors are completely intertwined in the broader definition of economic technology. She also asks, what is the impact of a digital divide on social inclusion? This is absolutely crucial. It's an economic issue that directly affects the very fabric of our societies. When we view technology just as gadgets, we completely miss the fact that unequal access to these tools systematically shuts entire groups of people out of the modern economy. For her, the digital divide isn't just an IT problem. It's a profound social and economic barrier. Zooming in on a much more personal level, she asks, what is the impact of internet and digital technology on mental wellness? This really shows how economic tech research touches on real, human costs. If technology is supposed to make our actions easy and promote growth, we also have to measure the psychological toll it takes on the workforce. To her, mental wellness isn't strictly a medical issue. It's an economic variable tied directly to digital innovation. Which brings us to her ultimate lingering question, the big one. What is the effect of digital innovation on human well-being? She urges readers to dive into the existing literature to find research gaps worth investigating, and honestly, this feels like the most profound gap of them all. It perfectly summarizes her entire paradigm shift. Economics isn't just about producing more stuff faster. It's about whether that production actually makes human lives better. If technology is the manner of combining inputs, are we combining them in a way that actually serves humanity? So I'll leave you with this to chew on today. As our technology accelerates, are we just building faster machines, or are we truly engineering a better state of human well-being?